three oldest started school at Horse Hill, and it was very handy to my work at Oliver. Many times I walked to work, and the place started to shape up. I planted hundreds of spruce trees, maples, and birch. Then we decided to subdivide the 80 acres, sell 40 acres, and pay up the debt. So we did. Then we decided to sell the 40 with the house and move back to the city because kids started to join guides, cubs, and other sports, and me working shifts. It was hard on Lida out of the city as she didn't drive the car at that time yet. We sold the acreage and bought the house on 86th Street and 122nd Avenue. It was well built, big 3-bedroom house, close to schools and not far to catch Oliver bus on 118th Avenue.
It was a six-bedroom
Then, for
house.
some,
It was a six-bedroom house.
hmm?
Six-bedroom house. Three upstairs,
Oh, yeah.
two down.
Then, for some strange reason, I spotted the house for sale on 78th Street and 119th Avenue, which I really liked. And it was only on one block to my Oliver bus. So we bought that house and rented the one on 86th Street. Still looking for some land. We found a farm at Ardrossan. After a year or two, we subdivided the farm into 3 parcels with intention to sell 2 parcels and build the house on one. But when Lida didn't agree with the parcel I chose for building, we decided to sell them all 3. After we sold at Ardrossan, we bought 80 acres by Fort Saskatchewan, where we had a big garden and planned to build someday. The house we rented on 86, people give us much trouble, so we decided to get rid of the renters. We sold the house on 78th Street and moved back to 86th Street house. After a couple of years, we sold the 86th Street house and moved to Coronado Farm. The house was fairly new, but not quite finished and in filthy condition. It took many long days of hard work to bring the house to livable condition. We put the floor in the basement, eave troughs around the roof, painted twice, and many other things while living in the trailer before we moved to the house. The soil on the farm was nice and sandy, not many stones. Which way I'm going? After the place was nicely cleaned up, our neighbor wanted to buy the farm for their daughter. We were not ready to sell the farm yet, but I was always dreaming to move someday to BC. So in 1973 and end of February, we left Veronica and Christina home under the Schlussinger's supervision and went to Vancouver to look for a job at Essendale. That was the trip we will never forget. On the way to BC, there was a little fresh snow on the road and not far from home. While descending from the mountain, the car started to fishtail and went out of control. From side to side, at times on edge of the bank, looking thousands of feet down the mountain. Suddenly, Lida yelled, "God save us!" At that instant, it felt as if someone grabbed the back of the car and turned it around on the middle of the road, going back up the mountain. So we drove slowly to the top of the mountain, all shook up, but but thankful to the Lord for being alive. Slowly we turned around on top of the mountain and proceeded to Vancouver. I did get the job at Essendale, so in June sold the farm to Schlesingers. We moved to BC, bought a house at Port Coquitlam. I enjoyed my job, and Veronica and Christina made some friends, but the conditions back in Edmonton were very disturbing. Dunya got to an accident, and the first grandchild, Tanya, was born prematurely. So Lida spent more time in Alberta than in BC. It just seemed that Alberta problem outweighed BC's pleasures. So in September we decided to move back to Alberta. Lida, already in Edmonton, found a house in Dickinsfield, and I sold the one in Port Coquitlam. 1st of October, we were back in Edmonton. I went back to my old job in Alberta Hospital. At Dickinsfield, we stayed there for 2 years, then sold again and bought a place at 56th Street and 138th Avenue. That was very handy place to my job and all amenities. From that house, Veronica and Christina got married. Then in 1978, we bought our farm back at Glenevis from Boris, a retirement place. The farm was rented out to the neighbors for hay until 1983, when I retired from Oliver. I sort of lived half of the time there, and weekend come to city. Then in 1984, we decided to try BC again. So we rented out the house in city and bought 10 acres with 4,000 feet, a huge house in West Bank. That was not a dream home. It turned out to be a big nightmare. We moved there in 1st of October and sold it in March of '85. And on 1st of May, we moved back to Glenevis Farm. Just as I...
And you didn't say you took 4,500 square feet of house and furniture and stuck it into this little 800 square foot farmhouse.
Yeah. Just as I cleaned the place up, mended fences, cleared some bush, thinking that it had to be the last move. Lida decided that Glenevis was too boring, and she felt isolated from her city friends and children, and the church and the church. So she started to check acreages close to the city. After some serious talk, I was persuaded to go along with one condition. If he can sell the farm, then we can look for acreage. But I didn't know that she already looked at some acreages. So she called Roy Kelly about this acreage. Sure enough, the deal just fell through with some buyer, and it didn't take him long to show us the place. Since we told him about the condition after we looked at the place, on the way home, he phoned agents at Spruce Grove to sell our farm. Sure enough, next day we listed the farm, and in a week the farm was sold. To my surprise to my unbelief and surprise, in September of 1987, we moved to our another yet farm. This place turned out to be just what we looked for. Good house, just what Mom wanted. Big barn, what I liked. Lot of trees, just what I love. Good soil, big garden, and even a little lake, what always was in my dream. Close to the city and not far from kids, most of all, close to all amenities. Things were like God sent until 1994. I have to go to the next book. Can you give somebody give me some glass of water? Where do I start from?
At the beginning.
Again?
No, you can't start at the beginning again. You have to start in the
I've
middle.
got no tape.
But,
Do you need a drink, Dad?
Yeah, he said.
He never said we went to Ukraine.
huh?
1986 we went to Ukraine.
Thanks.
To live? No,
No.
they didn't buy anything in the Ukraine.
I think that's where we got our sicknesses, Chernobyl.
And
That's what they got there.
I had a feeling about that.
Hmm?
I had a feeling about when you guys went to
I think
Ukraine.
it was right in the middle of that page, Dad. No.
You turn it off there? No?
Or do you have the same story twice there?
oh yeah, you see,
Okay.
I forgot about that writing. Then I wrote all that new, but then when I found I decided, well, that's crazy. 1994, Bill found out that he had cancer lymphoma that spread from face to bone marrow. After chemotherapy, which lasted from December 94 to the end of April 95, doctors told me that that time I had 2 more years to live. After the treatments and many prayers by good people and churches, 4 years later, a doctor pronounced that I was cancer-free until May of 2004. While on a cruise to Alaska, I became sick. Left side of my neck swollen with bad pains. When we returned from a cruise, I went to see Dr. Tay. After exam, he made a request for many blood tests, but to speed up the process of tests, he made an appointment at Royal Alec Hospital. There I was through numbers of tests which revealed that I had lymphoma cancer on my neck and a lining of the stomach. That was that was devastating, but expected news. Dr. Tay made an appointment with Dr. Belch at Cross Cancer Clinic for 28th of July. After exam and reading all the reports from Royal Alec, Dr. Belch decided to start chemotherapy by taking chlorambucil 2 milligrams, 2 tablets 4 times daily for 7 days, starting July 28th, August 25th, and September 22nd of 04. On 20th of October, I went to Cross Cancer Clinic for checkup. Dr. Belch decided to stop chemo for a while and wait for results from therapy, even though evidence of cancer was felt on my neck. After a month of waiting, it became swollen again and more painful, and I noticed more lumps forming around the neck that give a lot of pain, mostly at night. On 13th of January, I went to Cross Cancer Hospital to see Dr. Belch, and he ordered a second series of chemotherapy. Some same as the first one, starting on the 13th of January of 05. 10th of February and 10th of March. That's, after 3 weeks, and by the beginning of March, cancer was fast spreading. The lumps became hard, swollen, and spread upwards to the skull. At night, I had excruciating pains that I couldn't sleep for many nights. Tylenol 3 didn't do any good, so Mom insisted to see Dr. Belch in Cancer Institute. So on the 4th March, we went to see Dr. Belch. When he saw big swollen lump on my neck, he said, "It's obvious that chemo does not work." He called Dr. Alexander and made appointment for radiation therapy. After scope and exam, I started radiation on 11th of March.
3 days ago.
Yeah. Let's see, and there is, I never mentioned anything about my cancer, prostate cancer, but what did I do with
On the
it?
floor beside you. There. Other side.
Oh yeah. This is quite interesting too. In spring of 2002, I experienced a lot of problems with my waterworks. So I went to see Dr. Tay for help. After exam and a blood test, it showed my PSA was too high, and Dr. Tay suspected something bad, but nothing serious. He gave me a prescription and told me to come back in a few months. On the next visit, PSA on blood test count doubled up. So he sent me to a urologist, Dr. Hobart, who examined me and said that my prostate is enlarged, but didn't know if it was a cancer, and made second appointment for October 26th, 05. On September 26th, wife and I went to Victoria to visit our daughter. That was a Friday. Before we went to Victoria, Lida's friends mentioned that she knows a pastor and his wife having a church service on Fridays, and give Lida address to that church. So after supper, we asked daughter to take us to church. It was close to her place. At the church, we met some young and some older people, and the pastor Jensen and his wife. The service was much like ours. After scripture reading and preaching, pastor and his wife went between pews and prayed for a different people. Finally, they approached our bench and asked if we would like them to pray for us. So I stood up and asked and told them that I was a cancer survivor for 8 years, and at present time fighting prostate cancer. Well, I got more than I expected. Pastor Ray started to pray. Then Mrs. Jensen took over with very sincere prayer. Then Pastor Ray again started to pray with high exaltation that made me feel a presence of the Holy Spirit. I could say that prayer and lecture lasted 8 to 10 minutes. The time was taking to after 10 p.m., but worship and prayer continued. At about 10:30 p.m., our daughter decided to take us home. After a short visit, we retired to bed as we were quite tired. Me with high hope and expectation for miracle. Early Saturday morning, I went to the bathroom, and to my surprise, I couldn't pass water. The more I tried, the worse it got. Not only I couldn't pass water, but I got excruciating pains all through my stomach. I